Okay, so here we go. We wrote a program the other day where we did grade points, correct? We did basketball, but then like on Monday, either Friday or Monday, we did a grade point, correct? I think it was maybe even last week, but when we did it, we went through and we said we were reading in the grade, the name of the class, how many hours that class was worth, and then how many points. And then we calculated total points, right? Let's go back and modify that one, okay? Where we come through and we read the course name, the grade, and our grade's going to be what? Because now we can go through and compare letter grade and assign points, correct? And then how many hours it is. Now from that, I want to print out the name, the grade, the hours, and how many points that course generates. But yet, when it's all said and done, I want to keep track of total hours, total points, and then I want to calculate what? My grade point. And what we want to do here also is modify it a little bit. So, you know, we've just been doing straight ifs, you know, our block ifs. I want to handle error correction in case we have an error in the data entry. I want to be able to handle maybe even uppercase or lowercase, but let's get it where it works first time. Okay, good enough? So what do I need to do? Okay, so I have strings and I'm going to have what? Okay, probably YN. Can you think of any others? Because the rest of these are going to be what? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different double variables, correct? Okay. So I'm going to have what? D hours. Okay, let's do points next, okay? And then since we're using the D, let's go ahead and do this, D points. Then total hours, right? And since it's an accumulator, what do I do? Then I have total, whoa, yeah, that's right. Then I have total points. That's going to be an accumulator, right? And then I also have GPA, but GPA, do I need to set it equal to 0? Why? Because I'm going to calculate it, right? Yeah, that might be all right. There, hit the wrong key. Can you think of anything else? So if we defined all the fields there, the 3 we're capturing the YN for the loop. We got hours, points, total points, grade point, correct? Okay. Next, I'm going to start my loop, correct? Correct? Okay, semicolon. Thank you. Got to make sure we learn from our mistakes, right? So the next thing I need to come through here is probably go ahead and clear everything, correct? And then come back with a, and we're going to ask, clears the output screen. I'll show you here in a second. It just makes the screen less cluttered when it loops back up. What's the course name? And my next one is going to be console read line, except before I do that, I need to come back and say what? Course equals. Okay, so my next one's console right line again, and this one I'm gonna have what? Do what? I could put it up there, but think about this. If somebody's entering a grade, what's the grade they're gonna enter other than A, B, C, D, E, F? Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I guess you got a point. Whole letter grade. Yeah, no, that's a little more on our if statement than we want to do right now. It's Friday afternoon, man. Then I want to come back and say what? Grade equals console.read line, correct? Next. Don't think we need to give them an example there, do we? So then I'm going to say hours is equal to console.read line, correct? So do we have any fields that we need to turn around and parse from input before calculations? Hours. Pardon? We actually can't do it with grade because grade is A, B, C, D. If you try to parse A, B, C, D, you're going to get an error. Okay. So here we go. We say what? And we're using hours, correct? Good enough? So really on straight through, before we can calculate points, now we have to go back and determine with my if statements, my block if, what is the grade, correct? So here we go. If grade, and it's probably best to use what? Dot equals, because it's a string comparison, right? So the first one we want is A, correct? If that's the case, then do we have, how many things do I have to do? If it's an A, all I need to know is what? An A's worth what? Okay, so could I not just do this? Say points equals 4 times D hours. And because I only have one thing, do I have to put it into the curly braces? Okay, go start working you into that a little bit, okay? Because we end up with a whole bunch of curly braces that really don't have to be there if we're only doing one thing, okay? So do what? There. There's D points, correct? Okay. So else if it falls through, the only thing we know is grade is not equal to what? Okay, so now I want to come through and do what? Correct? If that's the case, then D points is equal to what? Else. I'm like weird. I like to indent and make sure they look pretty. That way I can look at it. Because if you look at it, you can tell whether you got your box closed. Okay. It's visually aesthetic. How's that? But it also helps you. Well, when you take a class called VB or some of these other languages, the true and the false are not enclosed in curly braces and stuff. In VB, in Visual Basic, it has if, else, end if. So if you open an if and you have an else, you gotta have an end if to close it. So graphically, if you indent over, you can see you're closing them back out. Okay. Here, this language doesn't necessarily require it. Okay. So if that's the case, then right here, pardon? Yeah. 2 times D hours, and then go right back up here and say what? And I don't like it because it didn't indent for me. Huh? I know. That's what I hate about these compilers, editors. See, I'll line this up, and as soon as I get through, it's going to line it back up. So right here, I need to go through and say what? Okay, so if it's a D, whoa, wrong one. If it's a D, then D points is equal to what? Is there any need to multiply it by 1? I'm making room here. And I don't like them, so I'm going to do this again. Else. It's going to fall through, and we need to check what? Do we need to check? But do we need to check for an F? A, B, C, D. If, right. We want to do the error. If it's not A, B, C, D, or F, we want to yell at them, right? So this way we do need to come back and do that. Right? If that's the case, then D points is what? Nothing, correct? I hate this. All of them did it. Damn it. It's Friday, don't do that. Else, if it falls through. Okay, if it's false, then we need to tell them they had an error right here, but we also need to make sure hours and points are what? 0, because if I don't, it could enter fraudulent data into my totals, right? So if they don't enter a correct letter grade, do we want it to average in? Okay, so I got more than one thing here, right? So this is, there, I feel better now. Kind of. So I have 3 things to do. I want to have the console.read line, correct? That says what? Right line. Invalid letter grade. Right? Yeah, I like the dots. Yeah, intentionally annoying because they didn't enter the data correctly. I want to make sure my hours are what? And I do that simply for the fact that I don't want them, even though they're still going to add stuff in, I don't want them to show up. Right, so. Okay, and I want it to pause here so they can read that message, okay? Difference between read key and read line. Okay, and I can't do anything about my pretty bracing gone bad. If we look at it, I've got an if statement with 1 line, correct? Here's my false. If statement, 1 line. Else, if statement, one line, else, if statement, one line. If not, it falls through to this one line, and my error message, correct? So once it falls through, I'm ready to print out the course name, the letter grade, the hours, and the points, right? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to clear this out again. Okay, you with me here? I'm doing this so it will clean out all those questions and responses, right? And then I'm going to come back with the console write line. First thing I want to print out is what? Course name. Second thing I want to print out is the grade. Third thing I want to print out is the, so can I do something like this? Even though it's double, if I don't put decimal places, let's look and see where we're at, okay? The next one is what? Is just the points, correct? We're not printing the totals out till we drop out of the loop, correct? Okay. So right here, I'm going to say course, grade, D hours, D points, correct? Semicolon. Anything else we got to do? We're going to do that, but we also left off a couple things right here. First one being what? Right? So now plus equal adds that amount in. What if I were wanting to keep track just of the number of classes and I had an accumulator called count? What would I add to that accumulator each time? Because each pass through the loop, it's representing how many classes? One. So what would I add to that accumulator? I could. Another thing I could do is something like this. I could say count plus. Okay. So here's your history here. Plus equal adds us the amount you have in the second to the first, correct? Minus equal takes that amount and subtracts it from that. Okay. Plus plus adds one. Minus minus does what? Subtracts one. So when we start thinking of the evolution of the language of C, the very first version was C, okay? Then the next version or generation that came out in the C programming language was called C++. Have you ever heard of that one? Still used widely at different places. So it kind of explains it's the next generation up. It's the next step up. That's how they came up with the name C++. Okay, but plus plus means add one, minus minus, subtract one, and so forth. Okay, these are all called incrementers and decrementers, and they're very common in C and in Java. Okay, so I printed all that. We're down to the point we want to do what? Console write line. Going to space down a few lines and say, do you want to quit, right? Ask them, give them their choices, right? Whoops. And then my next line is what? Whoops. So here's my question. Could I use read key?
No, those,
Why?
there, no, it doesn't say.
Hmm?
We wouldn't get the number because it doesn't say.
Why? Could I not say YN equals read key? Because read key operates on any key you push, right?
But I thought that once you push that key, like it doesn't save. that.
It'll save it if we give it a field to save it in. Where you run into is, what if I have the uppercase Y? And I have to do what? Shift and then Y. It'll save the shift instead of the Y. So you got to be careful. Hey, this isn't an intelligent machine. Remember, it's about a 3-year-old. We're telling it what to do step by step, right? Mhm. So, okay, I'm going to delete some of this stuff back up here. Because that's all we have left inside the loop, correct? We do have outside the loop, correct? Because when we drop out with no, we should be through adding to all the accumulators, correct? So this is where first thing I want to do is calculate my GPA, which is what? Total points divided by total hours. Okay. And then if do we want to put it all on one line? That's fine with me. How about totals? First one's going to be points, right? Second one's going to be what? Hours. Third one's going to be my GPA. So I better put what? 2:F3. Remember, because GPAs have normally how many decimal places to the right? Normally it's 3. Okay. After that, what do I do? T hours, T points, GPA. And then again, I'm going to say console.read key to do what? Pause it. Will it work? We did pretty good, 20 minutes. Our programs are getting longer and longer, aren't they? I still remember when I was a sophomore, we were writing in a programming language called COBOL. And I printed out on the old green bar paper, printout of my program that I wrote on the mainframe. And one of my last programs I wrote, I did a complete printout on it. And I think it was 50 some odd pages printed out. Had a few lines of code in it, right? So here we go. What course do we want? Intro to programming. Of course, we made an A and it's 4-hour, right? So that worked. The A did equate to what? 4 hour, 4 points. Do we want to quit? No. See right there where it cleared the screen? You were asking. Wake him up. You were asking on clearing the screen, right? So right there is where it cleared it, correct? And I need to make sure this screen shared. Let's do that one so they can see both of them. So right now, my course name's going to be what? You want math? Algebra. Everybody loves algebra. Not. C, and it's a 3-hour course. Do you want to quit? No. English Comp 1. Well, we'll get a little bit better. Quit. No. FYE. FYE. We got an A there, and it's 1 hour, right? Do you want to quit? Yes. Four hour, 3 hour, 3 hour, and 1. So 11 hours. Doing what we want, right? What if I typed in a lowercase a? Should it be though? Shouldn't be, but it is right now. how can I go through and make? Hmm? Yeah, let's try this. We need another if statement here to check for lowercase a or uppercase a, correct? So here's my question. We're turning this if statement into a complex comparison because I want to check for this or check for this, right? So that's the difference between logical and logical or. Logical or is one or the other one needs to be true. We could never use and here because it can't be a lowercase and an uppercase at the same time, right? So here we go. Or is the piping symbol. Okay, so I'm doing shift and it's the key right above the enter key. Okay. And right here, I'm going to come back and say what? Do what? I couldn't hear you. As in dot equals that or that. If it's this one, this one, this one, this. Anytime we have an if statement with a logical comparison, right?
Yeah.
It has to have both sides to do the compare. Like us, we can know it's going to go off the same field. It's this or this or this. Or computer doesn't know that. But we're getting an error right here because of the dot equals not letting me do what? String it all together. So I think it's the way I have my bracing. See how the piping is there? The whole if statement, both of them are inside the quotations, parentheses. Okay, so it's asking for uppercase A or lowercase a. If that's the case, do what? That right there. So I'm still getting an error though. Why? Do I? I've got a left and a left, a left and a left, right? I need one more. I didn't have enough. Correct? Pardon? If you look at a total left parentheses, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're good. So if we do that for A, we need to also do it for what? Kind of repetitious here, aren't we? We don't have to put if on there again because it's what? Part of. Right? Close it. I could, but that's cheating, isn't it? I like to type poorly. Sometimes when you start copy and pasting, you get in a hurry and you forget really what you're doing with it. Later on, I do a whole lot of that, okay? So I'm little d, correct? Yes. Will it affect it? It doesn't affect the points because it can be either lowercase or the uppercase to generate those points. Okay, that's why we're doing this. And right here on F, we need both of those, right? Yeah, got in a hurry. Syntax errors, those are the easy ones. And if we do that, can we modify our while loop? Could it be lowercase or what? Yes? What about this? Logical or. What if they goofed up and typed no? Do another one, both uppercase, both lower. You see how you can go through and make those, right? There's another thing you can do later on, once we get into string functions, where I can capture the value that they typed in, and I can force it to change to uppercase or lowercase, and then compare it. Right now, this is close enough, right? So what do you think? So the piping, the two lines, it's logical or. If they all had to be the same, what would I use? Logical and, the two and signs. Okay. Wow. A little bit of a change, right? See if it works. Make sure we're sharing the right thing. Yep, we're good. So the class name is, just helps if I click on the window I want to type in. Programming, right? We made an A, lowercase a, but an A, right? Do you want to quit? No. So that one worked, right? We had algebra with an F. D, so uppercase, we're going to check that again, right? Uppercase N. So far, so good. We're good? Questions? Monday, when we come in here, we're going to review. Probably do another example. When we go to lab, well, we might not even have time for another example on Monday. Our review will probably take us most of the hour. Because remember what all we got to review? Every one of those conversions. Okay, that's all on this first test. So we're going to do that. Tuesday we'll have lab again, but our lab will be dealing with if statements and logic. And Wednesday we'll take a test, right? Okay. See ya. Have a good weekend.